The Weekly, hosted by the editors of Pro Builder and Pro Remodeler, starts now.
So welcome to The Weekly. My name is Nigel Maynard, and my segment today is on tile trends, and I have two very knowledgeable industry folks to chat with me for the next however long we do this. We have Kristin Coleman from Novita in New York, and Ryan Fasan, who's out in Vancouver, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to start with Kristin because ladies first, Ryan.
That's perfectly fine. I'd have it no other way.
So, Kristin, you're the VP at Novita, and Novita is specifically focused on the design and architecture community. So, tell us a little bit about what you do with Ceramics of Italy.
Sure, and thank you for having both of us, Nigel. It's nice to gather here on this platform. I'm an SVP at Novita. I've been working there for 12 years, but my boss, Chris Avati, has been working with the tile industry for, I think, close to 25.
Okay.
So almost as long as the association has been around. But we've been working with Ceramics of Italy. We're basically their marketing and PR arm in the North American market. And we have, a long-running history with them. We're constantly tracking tile and design trends. We also bring a big delegation of architects and journalists to Italy every year, to Versailles, which we would have been going to in about 2 weeks.
Right.
We're all kind of sad there, but to see the latest products and trends.
Okay. And so, Ryan, you're coming at the industry from a slightly different perspective because you also a guy in the field, right? But now you're working with Tile of Spain.
Yeah, so I started in the industry when I was 15, so it's about 25 years for me as well. And I started in distribution, but then I went into installation, and for the past decade I was the creative director for a company doing product development. And throughout all of that, Tile of Spain has been my client. I've been their technical consultant, mostly doing education, editorial, and seminars are what people know me the best for. So I've been working with Tile of Spain for over a decade now. And trying to get the Spanish perspective and love for ceramics as a building material to be understood a little bit better here in North America. So that's
okay. So as we both know, there's a long history of ceramic tile in both countries.
Yeah.
And throughout Europe, really. And so what is the history of tile styles and installation techniques in Spain?
It's a super rich history. The modern age or incarnation of ceramics in Spain goes back about 80 years. But the roots of Spanish tile are in largely glazed wall tile. It has been really a core of the industry, and the glazing industry has persisted in Spain, and Spain actually is where a lot of the glazes and minerals and oxides and frits that the entire industry the world round uses, that's sort of centralized in Spain. So everything to do with glazed material tends to be one of the sort of specialties of the Spanish sector. Things like inkjet technology were developed in Spain as well, and first launched at Favisama. So that's something that's really core to the Spanish industry. But I'm from essentially the Pacific Northwest, like nearby Seattle, and here timber is ubiquitous because that's what we have.
Right.
In Europe, everything's clay-based because that's the resources that they have. So, ceramics are really part of the life of design. It's the go-to material in Spain for just about everything. And that's something that I really try to bring into the talks and the articles that I write. for the U.S. Market here is to get that sort of holistic understanding and appreciation for the material. That really is the core of the Spanish perspective.
Yeah. So now, Kristin, you're coming to us from Bologna, and
I'm pretty jealous of that background.
And when you walk around Bologna, it's very traditional. There's a lot of clay, and there's a lot of it's what people associate with Italian tiles. But nothing can be further from the truth today, because it's very technical stuff that's coming out of there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's truly incredible, and it's true when you walk around the streets. I mean, you see it everywhere, from the roofing systems that were developed by the ancient Romans. When you're going into a church and look down on the floors and the naves, I mean, ceramic tile is everywhere from a public space perspective. And then if you go into people's homes in Italy and you see, they're not afraid to use color and pattern, and nearly every surface is tiled, especially in Italy. But I mean, Ryan was talking about, pioneering. I mean, Italy and Spain are both pioneers in the industry. I mean, for the Italians, I think one of the biggest game changers happened in the 90s with the invention of monocultura. And that really started the porcelain tile industry.
Now, what is monocultura? Can you explain that?
Sure. So monocultura means fired once.
Okay.
So rather than taking a ceramic tile, firing it twice, monocultura, the decoration is laid on the wet surface, and then it's fired at a really high temperature.
Okay. So what I always wonder is why you're talking about two very traditional places, Spain and Italy. They're old, very old. Yet some of the most technically advanced materials and products and designs and innovations come out of these two countries. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I think, there's because there is a long running history of artisanship and design across industries. It's not just tile, it's in fashion and cars and art. So there's so many different influences that they're constantly pulling from. And I think because there is that ceramic culture that you're exposed to even at a young age, there's more of an appreciation for it.
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But.
Yeah, I think just building on that, I mean, there's that famous Picasso quote about great artists stealing, and and essentially there's so much history for the industry to build on and take inspiration from, or steal ideas from previous design periods. And ceramics is much like, I mean, it's identical to baking artisanal sourdough. It's very precise. And so when you have all of those glaze labs and all of those firing curves from previous historical ceramics to build off, you've got a much you're so much farther ahead of the game than countries that are running to catch up and learn all of those things. Plus, you get bored doing the same thing over and over. So, so the industry is always looking for ways to advance. I think another really big thing that's common across both Italy and Spain is energy and water is extremely expensive there. And it takes a lot of both in ceramic tile production. So finding ways to optimize the production cycle and give rise to new capabilities at lower costs and greater efficiencies is a real concern for all the manufacturers. So they're always pushing the envelope of what they can do technologically, and that then spurs on their design, and it just keeps the engine rolling. I mean, it's one of the fastest innovating industries outside of the tech world that I know of.
Yeah.
So
it does. I mean, I think on an average cycle, they're probably introducing new products even like twice a year, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, and in my lifetime, when I started in sales, I mean, a 12 by 12 tile, I remember a 12 by 12 tile coming out, you know, in my teens and thinking, man, this is huge.
Don't age yourself, Ryan.
You know, we sold 8 by 8s,
Yeah.
and when the 12 by 12 came out, it was huge. And that's just in my lifetime. And I'm not that old. I mean, there's some gray in the scale. But I mean, the scales that we're doing now at 24 by 48 is kind of coming into you know, North America has been in love with the 12 by 24 for so long. And the 24 by 48 now is sort of the new medium size, and that's not even big for our industry anymore.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, then you have like the porcelain slabs, right,
Yeah.
which go up to, you know, five and a half by 5.25. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's massive. That's huge. So let's stick with that subject, because the first time I attended a tile show, it might have been maybe 2002. And I think my first show was Italy. And it it took about 5 years before I started seeing some of the stuff that I saw that year. And I was wondering, wow, that took a long time. So fast forward to 2018, 2019, 2020. How long does it take for tile trends to leave the shores of Italy and Spain and end up in New York or California or somewhere?
I mean, there's a lot of different phases to it. So I mean, during, you know, the biggest trade shows, which happen in Italy and Spain with Trisai and Sevisama, I mean, distributors and retailers go, they bring back new products, and those are technically available in the market in anywhere between 3 and 6 months. But I mean, for trends to become, you know, widely adopted, I mean, that definitely takes years sometimes. And I think, but because Europeans are so forward thinking, you know, in terms of sizes, formats, patterns, color, you know, it takes a while for Americans to kind of, you know, become a little more open-minded, and a little more playful.
Right.
I think, just to add to that, I think one of the biggest reasons is the distribution model in the US, and the need for distributors to handle turns of their inventory. So everyone gets excited by the new trends, but you only have so many inventory dollars, and you want to make sure that your inventory turns at least 2 or 3 times in a year,
Right,
depending on what kind of product offering it is. So a lot of the time distributors were handcuffed and having to pick the safe bets that were kind of playing to the lowest sort of common denominator, where progressive markets like New York and Miami and Southern California and stuff might be a little bit forward leading on the trends, and some of those distributors would pick them up, but then it takes time to percolate across the country. So thankfully, you know, a lot of distributors wouldn't see it this way, but with some of the disruptors in the market, like Floor and Decor, that's a direct to retail model. It's forcing the old school distribution methodology to kind of change and shift some of their inventory dollars to marketing dollars.
Okay.
And so they're able to then put more money into promoting some of the more avant-garde programs, and then drawing from distributors, local stateside distribution centers, or working together with other distributors around the country to kind of have stock that they can help support projects and things like that, and get some of the more progressive lines into the country much faster. I'm starting to see that happen more as the distribution model is shifting, which is a good thing for us in design. I mean, it used to be sort of a common thing that the European reps would say, you know, in America, it's so strange. You guys love huge cars, but you're so stuck on small tiles.
Small tiles.
and that was sort of the running joke for the longest time, and that's starting to go away, along with the vanilla box that we've kind of been pinned
Yeah.
in. We're not as afraid of color or pattern here in the US as we used to be, and we're seeing a lot more of that come into our showrooms, which is great.
So Kristin, let's start with you, because in a perfect world, Tressai would be coming up, like you said, in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we expect in the way of trends for next year from the Italians?
From the Italians. Well, I mean, for me personally, I think one of the most exciting developments has to do with the porcelain slabs. So like thin porcelain slabs have been around for a long time. They were invented by the Italians, but they're becoming thicker now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of slabs that come in a 12 millimeter thickness. So they're perfect to use for kitchen countertops, bathroom sinks, and especially if you specify it in, for instance, like a marble look. Tile is so much better to use because it's scratch resistant, stain resistant. Kitchens and baths are messy places, so it gives you a lot less headaches using porcelain tile in those areas. So I think the K&B market is one of the most kind of exciting developments for tile right now.
Mm-hmm. Did the manufacturers in Italy start sending you stuff that they were hoping to introduce at the show this year?
So a lot of manufacturers were developing product to launch at Coverings last spring,
Mm-hmm.
which in the end pivoted to a digital format. But the manufacturers were continuing research and development and developing new lines for this fall. They're just, they have to present them in a different format.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of launching them at a giant trade show like Tressai, they're doing one-on-one presentations with distributors.
And so, Ryan, we were in Spain earlier this year. We had a great week looking at some stuff. Why don't you tell my viewers some of the things that we saw that they're going to be seeing in the U.S., however long it takes to get here?
Yeah, well, I think that there's some pretty strong trends that are going to continue from last year that will find really strong roots in the changes that are happening in design, and one of them is really natural products. We saw a lot of sort of modern takes on unglazed terracottas and unfinished woods, and very raw and petite with really aggressive vein structures. I think all of those materials that have a calming, natural feel are going to be very, very strong this year. I started seeing a bunch of the novelty collections coming out from the Spanish manufacturers as well, getting ready for fall winter launches, regardless of whether the trade shows are happening or not. They're coming out with new things, and that was one thing that I saw very universally across all the manufacturers' novelties, was a real appreciation for raw, natural, honest materials in ceramics, and I think that kind of fits really well with there's a really strong trend for biophilic design, sort of incorporating plants into interior and exterior design spaces, either in a permanent way or with potted vegetation and stuff like that. So plants are really becoming a very strong consideration for a lot of people. That's something that started trending throughout this year, and the growth in that is huge. So stuff that really matches with and complements living fauna is something that's really strong. So, motifs like Art Deco is another one that has a lot of organic forms and organic colors in it is something quite strong with, you're seeing a lot of the curved arches come back in both architecture and furniture design, and that's being sort of underscored by the Art Deco, either organics or flowing geometrics in a lot of the tile decorative programs as well.
Okay. So Kristin, I'm a designer and I want to start specifying Italian tiles. Tell me about the resources you guys offer to the design and the A&D community, and where could they go to get more information on whether it's specification, design, manufacturers, that sort of thing.
Sure. So I mean, for Ceramics of Italy, I mean, I think one of the key points is to, visit the website, but also follow Ceramics of Italy on social media, because that's basically the hub that will show the latest products, the latest trends from Italian manufacturers. So especially Instagram, that's a great, and Pinterest, that's a great place to go for inspiration. But then on the website, ceramica.info, we have a ton of resources. So there's a project gallery where you can see tiles installed in different spaces, a product gallery, so you can also see the latest products, and a lot of technical articles that talk about installation and different applications and all of the benefits of ceramic tile.
So for Spanish tile, Ryan, same question.
Yeah, and much the same thing. I mean, Tile of Spain also has a very active social media presence. They actually have a focused US version in their social media. So all the handles are Tile of Spain USA. Because the US market actually just this year has become the biggest consumer of Spanish tile exports. So they passed France in their consumption of ceramics this year.
Okay.
So the US market is a really, really important market for the Spanish manufacturer sector. They also have an association in Spain. TileSpainUSA.com is the website, and it just underwent a huge refresh, and there's a really good resource for design professionals called the Quick Ship Collection, and it's a curated collection of Spanish products that are warehoused locally in the US and available in project quantities. So they're either distributor or private distributor owned warehouses or manufacturer-owned distribution centers here on U.S. soil. So the Quick Ship Collection is a huge resource for designers. There's also a bunch of educational material that Tile of Spain has put together. A lot of it is stuff that I've collaborated on, and specification guides and things like that as well. So TileSpainUSA.com, and then all the social channels as well.
Okay. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I think this has been all very helpful information, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye, guys.
Take care, Chris.
Bye.
Thanks, Nigel.
Bye, Ryan.